Reporting to the media this week at Post Executive Council Media Briefing is the Chief Secretary, Orville London.
I want to deal with about 3 or 4 issues. One, obviously, the issue that is very much in the public domain, that of the Sagasum seaweed invasion. Many of you all will have been here earlier this week when we held a press conference after meeting with the various divisions which would have been involved in the response. Since then, we have had a meeting with the residents of Speyside, and I really empathize with the residents of Speyside when one thinks of what they have to endure 24 hours a day, because even if one spends a relatively short time in the area, one does experience significant discomfort, and one can imagine what the situation is like for those residents who have to endure it throughout the day. So we recognize that we have a responsibility to try to treat with the issue as urgently and as aggressively as possible. That notwithstanding, it is a monumental task and it is going to take some time. And I really want to place on record my appreciation for the level of understanding displayed by the residents of Speyside during that meeting last evening. They did express their concern and they did voice their distress, but there was a level of understanding and a level of maturity which I think should be commended. We would have, as I indicated, decided to invest $3 million in the initial phase, and that money will be focused primarily on Speyside and on doing assisting in the remediation at Blue Waters Inn and of course at Magdalena. We realize that more work will have to be done, and I want it to be known that we are not going to focus our attention only on Speyside. There are other areas, and it's just that the Speyside is an emergency situation. But we recognize that there are concerns at other locations, and those concerns we intend to address. We are going to look at the particular response which is most relevant to the particular concern, so that in some areas we're going to focus on using mechanized response. In other areas, we might have to use a more manual response. But a team headed by the Division of Agriculture, Marine Affairs, Marketing and Environment, and including representatives from the divisions of Health and Social Services, Tourism and Transportation, and Infrastructure and Public Utilities, will be making an evaluation of what is the level of and the type of the concern at the various locations, and then of course advocating or advising on how we should respond. So I just want the people in the other areas outside of Speyside not to feel that they're being neglected. We recognize that we have to respond, and we're going to try to do so within the next week or so. This morning, I met with the Minister of National Security. He did go to Speyside. He said he did a flyover and then he went to Speyside. And he indicated his concern at the level of the catastrophe at Speyside, and pledged the support of the Defense Force and all other agencies under his jurisdiction. This is, of course, a request which was grasped, and the Chief Administrator and the Chief of Defense Staff should have met. I haven't got a report yet, but they should have, not met, but communicated about the possibility of using the engineering corps, the resources of the engineering corps of the Defense Force in the response. So I am expecting that after those discussions, that particular situation should be operationalized, because at this point in time, when we're treating this as a natural disaster, it is relevant and appropriate that all the agencies, all the relevant agencies at both the assembly and the national level should be brought to bear. And I want to just extend on behalf of the people of Speyside and all of Tobago our appreciation to the Minister of National Security for his initiative. I noted the comments of the Minister of Tourism with respect to the impact on the tourism sector in Tobago. As much as we would like to believe that it has had no impact or little impact, we've got to face the fact. We've got to face the fact with respect to the present impact and the potential for negative impact. The tourism sector in Speyside is suffering. Those of us who have been to the Treehouse will know that that business there is now dead. Nobody will want to eat in those surroundings. Blue Waters Inn, the dive shop, all of these areas are seriously affected and will remain so until we are able to clear up the site and, most importantly, get rid of the scent. The fishing sector is also very seriously affected. The Magdalena Hotel is also affected. I am not certain whether it is, in fact, having a great impact on their bookings to date. But I think the area that we have to be concerned about is the image of Tobago and the image of the Caribbean. We've got to understand that tourism is a highly competitive area, and visitors have numerous choices, and therefore they don't take chances. So we need to treat with this situation and treat with it quite urgently. Otherwise, the tourism and fishing sectors would suffer deleterious and long-standing effects, and that is what we intend to do. The challenges facing the tourism sector, and I think more just as importantly, the people of Tobago, has been exacerbated by the water situation. And I want to put on record that one of the issues that has to do with that situation, one of the reasons why we are having this water shortage in Tobago, is the fact that over the past 3, 4, 5 years, the Water and Sewage Authority has not put in place the necessary infrastructure. They have not invested in major infrastructure in Tobago. The desilting of the dam, the Hillsborough Dam, is something that has been talked about for years. Nothing has happened. The well exploration initiative, it is only recently, within the last 6 months or so, that efforts have been made to accelerate that. And even the distribution network has not been put in place. An adequate distribution network has not been put in place. And the tourism sector is feeling the effects. Just while we were at the Executive Council, we got information about from 2 hotel owners who have been experiencing significant fallout because of the lack of water, with guests complaining, some requesting changes to other locations, and some even threatening to leave the island. So that the water situation, we know that we've had a long dry season and it is just the start of the rainy season. But I think that we need to put in place the type of infrastructure that will guarantee that we are in a position where we could treat with any challenges coming from the type of weather that we're having or not having. And that is something that I think we will have to have discussions with WASA with respect to ensuring that these this infrastructural work is done. The question of arrears of salary, payment has started to teachers, and by now most of the teachers should have received their arrears. The process, as you know, is one where the pay sheets are prepared and then they're audited. The auditing process has been completed, I think, for 6 of the 9 divisions, and the other 3 should be completed within the next week or so, so that 6 of the 9 divisions should be ready to pay, and they should receive their funding within the week. So no later than next week, payment to those public servants in those divisions should start, and the others should start very shortly after. I spoke to the Secretary of the Division of Health and Social Services, and there are 3 phases with respect to payment to those officers under the Tobago Regional Health Authority. The first is a commitment stage, and the Tobago House of Assembly is committed to pay. The second phase is the preparation of the documents for payment, and then, of course, the audit. My information is that that process is well underway, and therefore I am relatively confident that by the end of the month, the TRHA should be in a position to pay the monies to the relevant officers under their control. Because, as I said, you must go through the process. You're speaking about public funds, and therefore TRHA had to have had approval. They have to, when they get the approval or the commitment from the Tobago House of Assembly, they have to now do the paperwork. And then when they've done the paperwork, you now have to reach the point where you do the auditing. So that is the timeline that I've got from the Secretary of Health and Social Services. I'm certain that by early next week, she'll be able to provide us with greater detail, the information in greater detail. I had a very interesting meeting with representatives of National Petroleum and the National Gas Company, CNG, the National NGC CNG Company. At that meeting, there was also a representation from the PTSC Tobago through its Tobago manager, Mr. Henry Cook. The purpose of the meeting was to treat with the provision of compressed natural gas to the Tobago market. I would have spoken some time ago about my concerns if we don't have CNG in Tobago, then of course this whole idea of having the public transportation fleet fueled primarily by CNG, that will leave Tobago out of the loop. We in the Tobago House of Assembly have been requested to provide land for the setting up of a CNG station. Obviously, it is something for which we will collaborate, and at the meeting we gave our commitment that we will collaborate. At the end of the meeting, a committee was set up to be chaired by the Chief Administrator, and including Mr. Christy Job Sibro, an engineer at the Division of Infrastructure and Public Utilities, Mr. Kimber Anderson of the Legal Department, Ms. Cherise Wallace, the Director of Land Management, a representative from the Planning Department, and a representative from the Southwest Development Task Force Committee. This committee will meet next Tuesday at, I think it's 9 in the morning, and their mandate is by the next Tuesday. That is, so they're going to meet on Tuesday, the 11th, and their mandate is to identify 3 prospective sites in order of priority, or in order of preference, with the relevant recommendations. And they're supposed to do that by the 18th of August. When that information is received, we will then look at the information, and the decision makers at the various levels will then decide on the preferred site. The NP and NGC, CNG officials have given us the assurance that when this is done, that they could have the plant up and running maybe within 15 to 18 months. This, of course, is subject to the relevant approvals. We have to bear in mind from the Tobago House of Assembly perspective that the Southwest Tobago Subcommittee is charged with the responsibility of developing a land use plan which is in keeping with this comprehensive development plan and the objectives and the thrust of the Tobago House of Assembly in that particular area, so that all of this has to be synchronized, and that is why we set up the committee, so as to ensure that we can have, a seamless type of operation where one development will not impact on the other. So we're hoping and we're expecting that that committee will make the relevant recommendations and that we could get this process on the way. But I want us to understand that with the best intent, and even if we do this in the most efficient manner, this is not going to come on stream within the next year, within the next 2 years. And therefore, while the grass is growing and the construction is going on, our public transport system has to be functioning much more efficiently than it is doing at this point in time. Mr. Cook indicated that they are presently operating on the average with somewhere between, I think maybe 11 buses, 11, 12 buses, when what they need is 25 to 30. So this is obviously untenable. And Mr. Cook has indicated that they are going to try to, or they are in the process of sourcing, I think it's 11 engines to repair the buses which they now have non-operational. Now, my position is that, yes, this is an emergency response, but it cannot be the response, because obviously if you're fixing and so on, you're fixing buses of varying ages, you are going to continue to have challenges. And one of the aspects about public transportation which has not been evident in Tobago over the years is the question of reliability. People are not going to respond to using public transportation except it is reliable and predictable. I must know if I come out of my gate at 7:30 in the morning, within 5 minutes a bus will pass. Otherwise, I'm not going to depend on the public transportation system, and it's always going to be undersubscribed. And that particular initiative is not going to bring us that level of predictability and reliability. I've therefore requested a meeting with the manager, Mr. Ronald Ford, and I'm hoping that when we meet that we can get something more substantive coming out of him, so that we can have a public transportation system which is much more reliable and than we have at present. So basically, we are looking at the CNG situation. We have been told that CNG is the power of the buses, which is something about which we're concerned. The power of the buses is as good as that of a diesel-powered bus, and therefore it means that the challenge of them, having to traverse our very challenging terrain, that is not going to be an issue. That notwithstanding, however, I just want to reiterate that is not going to come on stream, I would want to suggest, under 2 years, and therefore we are going to be liaising with the people at PTSC to ensure that they put in place a process which will give us a more predictable, more reliable public transportation system in Tobago.
It's been almost 2 years since the stroke that Mr. Sandy had, and since then he has not been able to function in his capacity that he was elected in. Would this be the point where he decided maybe we should have a by-election or something of that sort?
Well, I think the issue came up already, and I would have explained how the system works. If you have a look at the Tobago House of Assembly Act, you will see the circumstances under which an assemblyman can, in fact, lose his seat, or let me put it differently, or the seat of an assemblyman could be declared vacant, and therefore that will trigger a by-election. And in the case of an assemblyman, it's very clear. It's death. It has to do with if you have committed a crime where the penalty is X, Y, and Z, and so on. But for the most part, it is between the assemblyman and the presiding officer. The only other provision in the THA Act is one where he misses 3 successive meetings of the assembly without the approval of the presiding officer. And all that is required in that situation is for the presiding officer to be presented with a medical certificate. Once he's presented, he does not have an option. He has to. The second is if he resigns. And the operative word there is he resigns. As Chief Secretary, as I indicated, I have control over who is appointed because I appoint them as a secretary or assistant secretary. So as far as my role is concerned, I have done what I would want to do in these circumstances, which is with respect to the appointment as secretary, and that was done a long time ago. But with respect to his position as an assemblyman, that is not something that is in my hand. That is totally in the hands of Mr. Sandy.
Thank you for tuning in to another Post-Executive Council media briefing for the week ending August 8, 2015.